Hey folks, do you like podcasts?
Do you have hobbies?
Well, here's the show for you.
The Hobby Shop Talk Podcast,
Featuring childhood friends
and old school noobs,
Luke and Matt.
Hello, this is Matt, and this is the Hobby Shop Talk Podcast / Old School Noob Podcast, episode 28. And this is Matt, and along with me is Luke. Luke, how you doing on this wonderful bye-week Friday for our football? Sunday for our football team?
Good. We got some nice weather for seasonably nice weather because it's like 75 degrees out.
Yeah, it's just so weird.
So
it's like 31 day, like recently, and then it's like 80. Then it's like cold again, and then we have 70s. So it's like, get outside, get all your stuff done. So that's all I've been doing is bringing stuff inside and listening to the gunshots. As it's also apparently hunting as well. So being out in the country, I hear a lot of gunshots today.
oh, it must be. Is it turkey right now or what?
I think actually for it's where like take your kids hunting, maybe, I think like kids get a week before, the actual
Hunting your kids.
That's a comic book. But anyways, we should talk about that eventually though too. Sometime we have to talk more about our comic book because this is for later in the episode, but I'm going to talk about something I've been listening to about writing comic books by my favorite comic book writers. So it's just awesome. The availability, I don't know if that's the word, or accessibility nowadays with some of the different things on the internet. It's crazy. But I digress.
Yeah, I know a bunch of the like artists have like patron pages where you can go watch them draw on Photoshop or whatever, which
crazy.
Would be pretty sweet.
Luke and I were talking about this. Again, we should just record this stuff and we probably wouldn't have to say it all again, but we haven't played a ton of Magic. You've been playing Arena. I did play games a couple weeks ago, but my memory is just not the greatest. So I played some great games with the guys and watched them pretty much take turns kicking ass as I sat back and just had fun. It was just kind of the same thing again with Brent, Dylan, and Devin. Before we get into some previews, and that's what we're going to talk about Magic, anything of note on Arena?
No, I've just been doing the drafts for Dominaria. So it's kind of fun because they brought back like kicker. I don't know if you remember the kicker ability. So there's a lot of like 3-color kicker abilities. So if it's a black card, there's like one kicker for red and then one kicker for green. So, and you do different things for each kicker. So I can't think of any cards off the top of my head, but
I'm truly an old school noob when it comes to like the last two. Like I literally have not bought any of the Dominaria set. I didn't buy any of the Double Masters. It's just been too busy. And, once I wasn't at the game store, which I was having the stuff at my fingertips, I'll be honest, it's not, it goes back to why I started the game store. It's not that accessible. I work from home. I don't go very many places to go get Magic cards. I could order them online, I guess, but so I just have not got anything from the last couple sets. So.
Yeah. Well, and me too. Like I've been doing video work on Friday nights for high school football. So those are usually my nights to go play. So I haven't been to, Lewis's game shop in quite a while. So.
Should we talk about, the next set is, what do we talk about first? Warhammer? How much have you looked into the Warhammer stuff? Do we talk about that is that out officially? Yeah, that is.
Yeah, it's out now.
Expensive.
It's, it's very expensive. It's like $80 for the commander deck. But there is like, I don't know, there's just a bunch of jokes online of people just spending way too much money on it pretty much.
Hundreds, right?
And of course, Magic fans. Yeah. Magic fans just complain about everything that Wizards does. So no matter what they do, they get pissed. If it was like $50, they're like, these aren't good enough. How are we supposed to collect these? They're not worth anything. Everyone has them now.
And I wanted them too. So it just goes back to with the store. I could have ordered this months ago, and even then it was expensive. But they're like, man, it's showing up like a handful of months ago. It showed up on Amazon already, like for pre-order for $100 each. Yeah, now it's like several $100. And I really wanted it try these out because I love Warhammer. I love the art and all of that with Warhammer. So I will not pay that much for it myself.
Yeah, I haven't bought even a Commander pack in a while. What was the last one I got? Was New Capena, so that was a little while ago. But yeah, we talked about the Legends deck, and then what's the other 5-color one?
Oh yeah.
That we talked like
this is Painbow. Yep.
Painbow. It was Painbow. Yeah. So actually, it's been that long since we recorded. One of the guys I work with, he actually bought both those decks, so I was able to play them when I went to the office the last few times. So, but I kept losing with Legends Legacy. It is. I just kept losing to the Painbow deck, and
I thought you were going to make some joke about the length in between our recordings, and I was trying to think of one funny enough myself. Like, he was able to, graduate high school, get married, and have kids since our last recording. But, I was trying to think of like a joke that you're,
something actually funny. So anyways, yeah, these Warhammer ones, I mean, honestly, just because I knew how much they were, I haven't even looked at them. I don't. So it might not be.
I think we skip that and talk about. I mean, the very beginning of like the year, I'm guessing it was when we started looking forward to sets coming up. You and I both, I think, said we were most excited for the Brothers War, which is now the next set coming out. And I'm just going to read a blurb. This is from Wargamer. I just found it quickly before. I like to just give a little background on what the set is. And it also just mentions it's the fourth and final standard set for 2022, taking place on the premier plane of Dominaria. And it's going to cover a pivotal moment in the history of the Magic the Gathering universe, a massive world-spanning war featuring devastating magical artifacts, monstrous mechs, and some of the Magic's oldest heroes and villains. Which right there, I mean, friggin' mechs. I'm all for mechs now. I don't care. Mechs are cool. I didn't even know that. So just reading that, like I pulled that page up. I just read a little bit. So honestly, I'm glad it's as good as it was. But yeah, that sounds cool to me.
Yes, it's the mechs are kind of like a callback to in one of the old novels. I think it was which one was it? Anyways, Urza builds those big like mech suits that him and then I think 3 other, I forget the characters because it's been so long since I've read it, but so they all load up into those mechs and then go fight the Phyrexians. So it's pretty good.
Literally never heard of that, and that just sounds awesome though. Yeah,
I have the book right here, I bet. Let me see which one it is. It's the Artifact Cycle 2, and it's Planeswalker, Time Stream, and then Bloodlines, and that's the Artifact Cycle 2. Artifact Cycle 1 is a lot of money. I forget how much it is, but I'm curious now, so I'm going to go look it up.
Really? Yeah, I'll have to look back. I don't know what I all have. But I know, too, like, I just, I don't think I got rid of them, but I may have even just gave them to you at some point. Some of them I had, just because I wasn't reading them, so.
Maybe I'm sitting on the money then. I'll check. Just kidding.
Yeah.
No, there was a while I went through and tried to read like from the beginning. Well, not the really early beginning, because those books were like Arena and I forget what the other ones are called, but I didn't read them. So then like the start of like the canon storyline, I started buying them all.
So Luke, I'm looking at some spoilers. I'm just going to message you. I'm guessing I'm on magicspoiler.com looking at, I just quickly perused and I didn't read through all the cards. I was just going through and looking for, some that caught my eye, and it's just the names, as you scroll through. I mean, so again, I'm on magicspoiler.com on the Brothers War, where they have some of the upcoming spoilers. We have Mishra, Lost to Phyrexia, a legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Artificer. I'm not going to read through the whole thing because it looks like it does a lot, but it's a 9/9. We got Mishra, claimed by Gix. So another Mishra. But then we see some Urzas. We have Urza Planeswalker, so we have a legendary Planeswalker. 4 abilities, including a -10. And Urza Lord Protector. But anyways, just on a quick glance, that's what caught my thought. And then also just like you said about the artifact, just the old school look of some of the artifacts, like the Soul Ring I'm looking at, Ivory Tower.
Oh, and they have the old border, the gold border. Yeah. Yeah, those look sweet.
Skull Clamp. Yeah. So that's the things that caught my eye was just, some of those names, Urza, Mishra, multiple different, cards, and then, the artifacts.
So did you see the Transformer crossover too? The Universes Beyond?
No.
So there's...
Oh,
so if you go down, I'm in the MTG Goldfish in the Brothers War spoilers, and towards the bottom, it has a ton, all the Transformers. So they have the ability more than meets the eye, and you can pay it for a different casting cost, and then something happens. But anyways,
go down and look at the lands are sweet. I mean, I didn't scroll all the way down. The full art lands for Brothers War have these mechs that just look awesome.
Oh yeah, like the swamp has that. Yeah.
The island, it's massive mech in the ocean. It reminds me of a Scythe, the board game, which I've got multiple still. But, just an old school look, like in the prairie somewhere, and then there's a mech.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Any first thoughts? There's a ton of spoilers.
There isn't much. The Urza, both?
And they go together. So, for example.
So, you have to get the Might and the Meek Stone, or the Might and the Weak Stone. You can exile it and then meld them into Urza Planeswalker.
Yeah,
so that must be... get him to the Planeswalker.
I'll read
instead, because he's a creature. Yeah, you can read it.
I'll read this. So this is what I mentioned. The Urza Lord Protector. So it's a blue, a white, and 1 additional. Legendary creature, human artificer. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, which is already pretty sweet. And then,
he's only 3 to get out. Did you say his mana cost?
Yeah, 3 to get out, and he's a 2/4. And then so you pay 7, you don't tap it. If you both own and control Urza Lord Protector and an artifact named the Might Stone and Weak Stone, exile them, then meld them into Urza Planeswalker. Activate only as a sorcery, so then you can create Urza Planeswalker. I'm going to have to pull up the words. There's so much stuff on the card, I can't even read it.
It's hard to see, yeah.
Without even... so I'll read through them here. I have, +2 artifact, instant, and so this is Urza Planeswalker. It's a 7 for
starting loyalty.
Yeah, starting loyalty. Once during each of your turns, you may activate an additional loyalty ability of Urza Planeswalker. You may activate the same ability twice. So I missed that. Then, so it's +2. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast. You gain 2 life. Jeez. +1. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. It's 0. Create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. Then it's -3, exile target non-land permanent. And then it's -10, like I mentioned. Artifacts and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents. I mean, that's just...
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then...
Power creep is real.
I'll read the Might Stone and Weak Stone. It's a 5-cost artifact. When the Might Stone and Weak Stone, it's a legendary artifact, Power Stone, I should throw that in. When the Might Stone and Weak Stone enters the battlefield, choose 1. Draw 2 cards, or target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. And then it also has tap, add 2 colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Melds with Urza Lord Protector. So that's the Might Stone and Weak Stone. But yeah, so lots of stuff going together there.
Yeah, I'll be curious because I'm almost certain that will be like the main commander on Brawl in Arena.
Yeah,
because right now it's that Joda, the 5-color Joda. So it's pretty fun playing with it playing against it gets kind of annoying, so I usually don't play with it. And then, so I made like this mono white deck to try to counteract all the multicolor stuff. But anyways, yeah. So I'm guessing Urza Lord Protector will be the new, the new commander once it comes out in Arena.
This other one too, I'll read through this, but I'm going to go 1 second. I'm going to go. That's where to go. But I'm going to look at or unless you want to look, and else when I get back, I was going to go through the Mishra Lasta Phyrexia is the same kind of thing as that other one.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to read through, just so I'm not, but I think we should look at the other one. The other big one is just the Mishra claimed by Gix, and then is it Gix or Gix? I don't know, Gix. The Mishra Lasta Phyrexia.
Yeah, so Mishra claimed by Gix is whenever you attack, so he's 4 converted mana cost, 2 colorless, a swamp, and a mountain. And a legendary creature, Phyrexian Human Artificer. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If Mishra claimed by Gix and a creature named Phyrexian Dragon Engine are attacking, and you both own and control them, exile them, and then meld them into Mishra lost to Phyrexia. It enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So, the flippity flop side is Mishra lost to Phyrexia. It's a legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Artificer. Whenever Mishra lost to Phyrexia enters the battlefield or attacks, choose 3. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Mishra deals 3 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact or planeswalker. Goes good against his brother Urza. Yeah. Creatures you control gain menace and trample until end of turn. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 until end of turn. And then create 2 tap Power Stone tokens. And you can choose 3 of these. It doesn't say you can choose 3 more than once, like the Urza did, right? Didn't Urza say that?
Choose 3.
Like you may.
Yeah, like you said, you can do it. You can choose the same one more than once.
Yeah, and they didn't say that for Mishra. So curious about that. So, anyways, so the Phyrexian Dragon Engine that you have to be attacking with as well is 3 colorless mana for converted mana cost. Phyrexian Dragon Engine, artifact creature, Phyrexian Dragon. It has double strike, and when Phyrexian Dragon Engine enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. And then it has Unearth for 3 colorless and 2 mountains. And it's a 2/2.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through these ones because there's just so much with these. But then there's also, I just noticed Mishra Eminent 1, which is blue, black, and red. And then also Urza Chief Artificer, which is 3, and then a plains, island, and swamp. So multiple of each Urza and Mishra, it looks like.
So these are the commanders, right? Versions of these. So these are the Brothers War commander sets. Because you know how each of these, yeah. So like some of these bigger ones, they have the commander cards, and then so
that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I think this one does so far look pretty cool, and I like the mechs. To be honest, I didn't pay enough attention and realize that was part of it, so that's even cooler. And man, those lands just look awesome.
Yeah. So it should be a fun set. It'll be nice when they start dropping more spoilers and previews.
Well, so like we said,
I will note that Urza's wife, Queen Kayla bin Krug, is on there. So I don't know. In the novel, they talk about how her dad, Kayla bin Krug's dad, was like, any man that can get this tower to do this or whatever will, pretty much get my daughter's hand in marriage or whatever it was. And so all these probably strong, beefy guys were trying to lift it or do whatever. And then Urza used his smarts to get something to pick it up. And it was in, one of those novels I was talking about. So
yeah, I see that.
It's kind of cool. They bring her in too.
Yep. She's a 3 cost 2/3/3 legendary creature, human noble. but I'm not going to go through the ability. Yeah, so it's definitely get into the story. So I'm guessing it would probably just be a quick Google search, but to figure out which exact books these are really relating to, or at least the history of it.
Well, they're probably spread out, between that block, because it's the Artifact Cycle 1 and 2, which covers like 6 books. So
yeah,
they're all pretty sweet if you're a reader.
Anyway, so like we said, we didn't play too many games. We talked about Brothers War. I think though we just continue the Magic though and go into the Magic the Gathering comic books. Yep.
13 and 14 that we've both read 4 or 5 times, probably just because it's been so long since we were going to first record or
we tried
review them
many times. So I have read those many times. So we definitely got to go back and do a refresher. Also, this is just right in the middle of this. It is Sunday, so it went away for some reason. But man, it's the 49ers and Chiefs game is really back and forth, and McCaffrey's already playing. So, anyways.
Yeah, is it 13 to 14 still?
I think Chiefs are up, right? It was, anyway, so 13 and 14, I'm everything that coming up, the comics we read, I'm going to be using Previews World just to give a quick little blurb, especially because it's been forever. So at least to give some background to what we were talking about previously. So 13, Magic the Gathering from Boom Studios. In Zendikar, tomb-raiding and death-defying adventures await as our 3 heroes finally learn to work as a team with Chandra Nalaar as the unexpected and reluctant leader. In the hazards surrounding the Sky Rune, they encounter redacted, but we'll talk about that, pushing Grok's hatred to the limit and sending the 3 into a reckless pursuit in the dangerous runes. Who's the mysterious figure that's caught Grok's ire? And what new perils await in the depths of this ancient plane? So that was 13. So yeah, they're going back to where they're trying to find a way because there's like a blockage to cross planes into where we're going back to Zendikar. Too many planes.
Yeah, they're in Zendikar right now, so they're going back to probably
Ravnica. So they're going to different places to find something that has enough maybe power to go between planes. And at the same time, as a team, they're looking for on the tip of my tongue, Tybalt. So Tybalt is still on the thorn on their side, and that's the redacted, previously. That's Gurok's Gurok doesn't like that again. That Tybalt pretty much kills to kill. Gurok's all about the hunt. So
the thrill of the kill for Tybalt.
Like I said, adventurers in the beginning of the comic that shows there's been many adventurers that really have tried to go. And this is into the plane of Zendikar. And it's said for many reasons, that people are doing this: wealth, lore, esoteric adventure, but not many really survive. And then we get to our fearsome team. No one told Gurok, Nico, or Chandra this. And so they're now going into this plane looking for they're almost trying to see where Tybalt's going, because they know that Tybalt and them are kind of trying to do the same thing because they've seen them in other powerful places. So, is Nico, I like the action scene, Luke, of him flying through in the first few pages. Like he pretty much just loves all the craziness of the arrows and things shooting at him, and he's just doing flips and parkour.
He's doing like the parkour stuff, right? So he was kind of doing like the parkour stuff through all the dangerous stuff on there in Zendikar. And then Gurok gets a whiff of Tybalt and just kind of jumps off a cliff.
Before that, it's kind of where it was, as I say, where it was kind of mentioning that Chandra is like, pretty much, I can't believe that I'm going to be the one that has to be the leader of our group, because she's never been, one to be the leader. And she comes up with a plan, and they're like, they're kind of giving her crap about it, and they're like, pretty much, that sounds like a good enough plan for me. And then, Gurok's like, well, time to hunt, because he gets a whiff of Tybalt and just plunges right in. I like the line, people make plans, gods spin fates, but sometimes they just don't take. Sometimes you have to live in the moment. So Nico takes off, going after Tybalt. I mean, just flying through this place without really paying attention. But yeah, this is where we start to see Tybalt and then Devriel as well. And they're talking about their master. And again, this is so hard for me to remember the name. They revealed their master previously in the last issues, correct? The dragon.
Oh, yeah, Niv Mizzet, right?
But so then, yeah, I like Devriel. He's able to conjure, these monsters. And I think he did that in previous issues as well. Like Tybalt says, Devriel may be a coward, but he has his uses. Yeah. And so he's conjuring this massive monster to stop the team. Was it Nico? Nico's ability is pretty crazy. It's with the mirrors. It shows him like throwing chunks of like glass or mirrors, reflections.
Yeah, like shards, right? Did they call them shards?
Actually, so Nico throws a shard and it really is throwing Gurak at them, and he so somehow he throws this shard.
They throw the shard. Don't be so insensitive, Matt.
But it's cool how Nico throws that shard and Gurak comes flying out of it at Tybalt.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I didn't know Nico's abilities really, so that's pretty cool. So the other part of this too, I think that we didn't go back to, is this where, so they were also, or this is towards the end of this issue, sorry, when that spirit, did the spirit that come to be from the last issue, or is that this issue?
Well, yeah, so like right after Tybalt calls Devriel a coward, and then so Devriel does his thing, but then Gurak gets to him, and Davriel's like, whoa, are you no longer entertained, Tybalt? Kind of like, you kind of asked for all this stuff, so. But then Tybalt's like, call every specter in this dungeon. So that's when like this random spirit comes up and starts talking, and it talks to Nico, who they're like, what, what did it say? Because no one could understand it. And then Nico's like, it said, save me, save Ravnica.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I remember. So that's towards the end of this issue where we meet the spirit. They called forth all these spirits, which one of them was one to talk to Nico. And
yeah, we find out who it is later in episode. It
kind of ends with what did it mean? And it's so they said, well, they're gonna have to bring it back to life, and then they're gonna get their answers. So now they have to set out to try to figure out what this spirit is and bring it back to life and see what it meant by that. But this one had a lot of action, and ended with another cliffhanger. Every one of these does end with really big cliffhangers that does make you want to read the next one.
Yeah, it's been a good series so far.
I'll read the previews world quick of 14. The Planeswalker's journey to Locthwain to find the Cauldron of Eternity and finally uncover the identity of the specter haunting Nico's steps. Many knights have fallen in their quest for the Cauldron. If our heroes find it, they must prove their worth. But if they succeed, they might discover the identity of the specter and the dangerous implications of that knowledge. So, another journey to find another. It's like.
Yeah, this time they're on Eldraine.
This is the cool part, getting to be, they're on all these different, all the different planes you hear about, It's just literally planeswalking.
Yeah. It says a plane of myth and legend, of chivalrous knights and clever rogues, of canny druids and scheming fae. I don't know what a fae is, but
this whole series though too, the art has just been awesome. I mean, again, flipping through these from the first page of Gurak, and so it starts out too. Part of that's where Gurak is screaming because you see all the others with like an axe in one of them. You see Nico on the ground, looks like either unconscious or dead, and then they're kind of talking about it, that they saw this dream and like, you died here in the wilds of Eldraine, so that's obviously not a good sign going into this place. But man, this page was what I was going to refer to as well. Just that second page, the art is so good in this series.
Did you already talk about this on the first page? It must be Gurok dreaming, right? Because his axe is through Chandra. Did you see that in the bottom corner? Yeah, I didn't even notice that first time I read it.
Yeah, that was his axe, though. But so that's what I was saying. It kind of starts out in this dream, and then it goes on to showing them, and it's not a good sign for the journey to come that they just had a dream of them all dead, and an axe, Gurok's made the axe in the back of Chandra. But so as it was saying, it kind of starts with you have to go through each one of them as they're going through Eldraine in this swamp. And we see each one of them, and I guess, Luke, how would you describe it? Is it their like worst nightmares they each have to go through and prove themselves?
Oh yeah, is that? Yep, yeah. This one, 'cause it's like Nico, he never lived up to his, his calling or whatever, his fate.
And then Gurok.
Chandra's.
Gurok. He's just. I mean, we see. His
got some daddy issues.
Gurok, where are you, son? But yeah, so kind of when I first started, because Gurok's the first one, you're kind of like, it's pretty much. So each one of them has Gurok Wildspeaker does not consider himself a complicated man, and then it goes on to the next one. Nico Reese has never considered themselves a complicated person, and then it goes on each one of them to show, just like some of the worst fears that they have, and if they're able to conquer those, which so we go through and we see each one of them. Guess we don't have to really go into too much to give too much away, but yeah, they each go through them, and then as they go through that through the issue, then they're able to each like say, I guess if you want to.
Well, kind of earlier in the beginning of the issue, they Gurok talks about how he was brought back by the cauldron of what was that? Yeah, the cauldron that they're looking for. So he's like, the cauldron of eternity brought me back to life. And then Chandra's all pissed because she's like, I've been talking about my dead friend, Jace, this whole time, and you didn't tell me you knew how to bring people back, kind of thing. And then Gurok's like, do you have his soul? Do you have his body? And Chandra's like, no. And he's like, well, then why would I tell you? So, yeah. But then it goes into, like them, like Gurok kind of consider himself a wild animal, and his dad, like dad stuff, Chandra.
It always goes back to it.
Yeah. And this is what, it's so confusing reading Nico's because of the whole pronouns or whatever. It's like, largely because they've always considered self-reflection a waste of time. They've always known. Anyways, so.
But yeah, so that's why I was kind of skipped, because some of these issues are tough when it's just, I mean, like this is going into a dream state, or there is a lot of like, then, now. And you're like, what's going
Ravnica, Zendikar, Eldraine.
Yeah, so it is very difficult. But yeah, so they're each going through their own journeys pretty much, and they have to get through all the way to the end, and they have to like reject, at the very end, their end of this series of them going through this this trial.
Well, this kind of explain how the Cauldron of Eternity is testing them because earlier in the issue it also said like the cauldron will find them, you don't find it. Like you have to face adversity, and this is kind of what they're doing.
Yep. Here's the kind of, it says everything. It's like, this is the trial. To be proven worthy of life, they must face the death of self. The moment when giving in would be the sweetest relief, when fighting seems pointless, a needless extension of pain, when everything hangs on the balance of a knife's edge, the moment when one word must be spoken, and then they each say no. And they know who they are. Each of them goes through, and they start fighting back. Like, nope, I know who I am. And then, it's Gurok Wildspeaker has never considered himself a complicated man, and yet is ever haunted by the ghosts of his past. And then it kind of goes through each of those about each of them. They've made it through this journey And despite their individual frailties, however, they are as one. They did not give up. They showed the holy virtue of persistence. For I, the cauldron of eternity, have tested them, and I have found them worthy. So that kind of explains that whole process. But there was a lot going on for a handful of pages of each of them going through their own crap in their heads. I guess without lack of a better way to say it. And then so for their reward, they get to see who the spirit is. And it's Jace Beleren saying, I have so much to tell you. I mean, again, you just couldn't have a bigger, Jace is dead. He died when they went through that whole plan with Merritt Lage. I mean, at least we think she's dead, or they all think, or that he's dead.
Yeah.
And so, the ghost that Davriel brought out was Jace. I guess he really used his power. So much to be able to allow Jace to come from another plane, apparently. It says Jace Beleren, the Revenant Spirit, Ghost Speaker, Planeswalker, to be continued. And we had the best intentions to read 15, and I'm very interested to read 15 after that, because he's he said, I have so much to tell you. And so next time we'll for sure be doing, say, 15 and 16, do 2 at a time. But I think, we're a handful. We have a handful. We can keep going. I think we're up to, are they up to 20 now? I don't know. Up to 19, I believe.
I have 18 or 19 as my last one, so.
How about, I'm going to read the thing, the little blurb, and he's your favorite, I believe, Magic characters. So I'm going to allow you to just tell us all about Ajani Goldmane #1 from Boom Studios. It's a standalone. So this again from Previews World. This standalone tale introduces new readers to fan favorite Planeswalker Ajani Goldmane, while delving into his past adventures and uncovering surprising revelations for the Brave Healer's current fans. But what happens when the steadfast, valiant protector faces threats beyond his capabilities? So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We kind of talked about this beforehand. I wasn't too thrilled with this one. I mean, it wasn't the greatest. It kind of goes, I think it has, 3 different stories?
Yeah.
So it just kind of shows. So the first one is Ajani and Jazal. Is that how you pronounce it? His brother?
Yeah.
So in Alara, where where Ajani's from. And I mean, most people know Ajani was kind of like an outcast because of his white skin, right? His white fur.
Right.
And then he's missing an eye. So the Pride thinks he's bad luck. Everyone mostly but his brother. So
at the beginning too, they're like you see in it's like different art even. It really threw me off. I'm like, is this the art of the whole thing? But it's like some kids playing as Ajani and
they're playing the game Planeswalker.
Yeah,
so they're,
some little cubs and talking about, it said, so one of them's playing Ajani and he gets betrayed by his brother. Today you die, but why? I have done nothing to you. You left us. You left Naya when we needed you most. And so we fight. So they made up a game. So, I mean, is that obviously some of the back history between them and kids and there's a whole other generation. There's some other kids a little bit older and they're like, oh, you know about that game too? I'm like, oh yeah, we want to play, but everybody's saying don't play it around Ajani, because he doesn't want to bring up the past.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I read this probably a week ago, and I was the first stories with Tamio about how they're trying to stop a locust swarm.
The tale of the endless hunger. Yep. So they're trying to save this village they're already in bad shape, but there's been this swarm that just shows up and there's a flicker or something that people see that have survived this. And all of a sudden, this swarm comes and just destroys everything and then just disappears pretty much.
Well, and then they kind of say, so this was is it Gist? Who was the bad guy in that one? Because what was it? Hold on.
Look back, and this was a big issue too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it cost more too. I remember. Yeah, it's $8.99, but it was it's a pretty big issue.
Yeah. So, the first one is the swarm was controlled by, I think, because it's another planeswalker.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the end, when they're trying to save it, it talks about Tamayo, who's with them. So I speak to souls. Tamayo speaks to story. Combined, perhaps we can speak to similarity. We are planeswalker, even if the little cousin is strange to us, we can find commonality. So they were talking and saying it was the little cousin. I was like, what are they? I didn't really understand that. That this little cousin, and because then her name is Grist. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So right there. So Grist is, and she's just feeding her swarm of locusts, not knowing that the people need that food to eat. So, and like all three of these stories are like, you don't need to use violence
to. I was going to say, that was the point of this one. So the first one's, this one was, here's this story, and we didn't need to use violence. They were able to speak to this Grist and say, this is people's, humans, livelihood or whatever it is, and I don't know if it's humans, I guess, right now. But this village is, and Grist is like, oh, I didn't know this was somebody's pretty much, and then just left. It only like took a field or something, but so that was the story, and then they're like, kind of like, that was boring, so then, okay, another story. Yeah, the next one is the story of Shadows Upon Stone.
Yeah, in Innistrad. So it's has Nahiri, and then Arlen Cord, who's the shape-shifting werewolf planeswalker. So apparently she called Johnny to come help because they think one of these mansions is Soren's. Actually, his mansion is haunted, so they're just curious what it is, and they go there. Then they find Nahiri up in like the attic or something, waiting for Soren to come back because she wants to pretty much take him out for what he did.
Yeah, she blames him. She got some problems. They said, you tried to destroy Innistrad because you were angry with Soren Markov. Overly simplified, technically true. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. So this, I'll be honest, this story was better than the first story.
Yeah, the first story, yeah.
Again,
I was thinking
action.
that too.
Those kids were right. You need action. At least this had a little bit of something to it.
So yeah, then Johnny finds her up there, and she, they start talking, and she's like, I acted in anger, Soren acted in arrogance. Which one of us is worse? Kind of thing. Like it's the dichotomy of who was wrong and who was right. And you could look at it both ways. But then, so Arlen at the time was looking around elsewhere in the mansion, and so once she realizes, like she checks on to Johnny, and she's talking to, or Johnny's is talking to Nahiri. And Arlen, hates Nahiri because Nahiri wanted to take out Innistrad, pretty much because of Soren. So Arlen attacks Nahiri right away.
So much drama, of course, between all them, man. That's just... They need to go on like a Jerry Springer show and air out the differences.
Yeah. So then, Johnny kind of has to pick, like, am I going to help Nahiri fight Arlen or help Arlen fight Nahiri? And of course, he chooses peace. So, yeah, in the end, they kind of come to terms on, Arlen doesn't want to attack her anymore, and Nahiri just leaves, essentially. And then the Cubs are like, you cheated, you promised to fight, and that was barely a fight at all. So, anyways, kind of adds to the cheesiness of the whole thing.
Yeah,
so,
and so again, oh man, you didn't. I'm gonna have to say this because now I think it was in one of the issues that we're gonna preview coming up, but it actually, somebody calls somebody else milk toast, I believe it was, or something. It was pretty funny. I giggled.
In one of the comic books?
One of them, for the Magic ones, for one of the two that we're going to preview, like Hidden Planeswalker, one of them I read. Anyways, I just remembered that. But I was going to say that this is a very milquetoast issue, and again, this is your favorite character. I mean, you go to anything on, read these, Soren, or, anything on the Phyrexians, so, swamps, black, if you go to like, red, anything in the red world and goblins, the cool stories, and then you go to the plains world and the boringness of the, it's too, I actually, so this is honest here. I stopped and I was like, hopefully Luke read the story of Shadows Upon Stone, because I was like, I'm over this right now. I'll read it at some point, but I was pretty bored by this point.
Oh yeah, no, this is the one too where he's back with the Jazal and Alara, and they're going on a hunt, and this is why. Or this is where it brings up Johnny being bad luck for the Pride, and Jazal, obviously doesn't think so. But then apparently there's one of the other lions from the Pride that is jealous, so he's like following them, hunting. And yeah, like I'm not going to get too into it because it did kind of suck. I don't know.
I think once you read the other Magic issues, there's like just so much more character.
Yeah.
I don't know how to even describe it, but it's just where I was like halfway through, I'm like, it just seemed like a chore for the podcast to read the rest of it.
Yeah, I know for sure. I was even reading it. I was like, this is a long thing. So,
no,
anyways, don't get it. It's not worth it.
Especially $9. I mean, it was a big issue, but I mean, I'll go back because I'm kind of curious to hear, more of his story because I didn't know anything about it. But I mean, it wasn't the best, I guess.
Yeah, and the art wasn't
compared to the
it was
other
a
ones.
little, yeah. It was still good, but it just wasn't.
So I'm just gonna preview because I already read the Hidden Planeswalker, and so yeah, but I'm just gonna preview because we'll do this for next one, and I'll say this: I really like this issue, Luke, but I'm gonna do a quick preview. So it says, delve deeper into Magic the Gathering universe. Again, this is from Previews World. So let's get that. While our heroes have many dangers to face throughout the multiverse, the powerful necromancer Liliana Vess returns to her home as a professor at the greatest college of magic in the multiverse. But she doesn't return alone, sensing the presence of a distant planeswalker calling for help, one with the power to save or destroy entire planes, puts her on a collision course with the diabolical machinations of Tezzeret, the Master of Metal. So that's the other one that I have to read still, which I do have, the Tezzeret Master of Metal. Yeah, this is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of funny. It reminds me of like some probably people would be mad about that saying that, like Harry Potter. I mean, it's Liliana Vess going to Strixhaven and being a professor of necromancy. So no, that was a pretty good issue. So we'll talk about that one on the next episode. Luke,
I was just thinking that she should be a professor of necrophilia. That would get a lot of new fans for Magic the Gathering.
Well, you're gonna put that in our like podcast little thing too. So when somebody searches that, they're gonna be like, "What's this podcast?" So did you? Before I have I'm going to read 2 other previews, and then I have a couple comics coming up. Did you have any, since we're over Magic here, any others that you read to talk about?
For Magic or comics in general, or what? Well, I have the X-Men storyline. I'll get back on track with that, though, like in the next one. And then I have the preview for up to December for Marvel. And you'd be surprised. I didn't really find much, exciting coming up. So I'll have to check out Boom Studios or DC Image, see what they got coming up.
So,
I mean, I still got a ton of comic books that I haven't read yet. I got this, is it the Stanley Kirkman X-Men's run, the first anthology of that, so I'll have to read that at some point. Can't get enough too much X-Men, right?
Going back to Milquetoast, yep. So I'm going to preview just a couple that I planned on, and I'm going to mention why more. But so one I plan to read, and I have the first trade, is Noctera from Image. Again, this is from Previews World. This is 10 years after the world is plunged into an everlasting night that turns all living creatures into monstrous shades. The only way to survive is to stay close to artificial light. Enter Valentina Val, her nickname's Val Riggs, a skilled ferryman who transports people and goods along deadly, unlit roads with her heavily illuminated 18-wheeler. And, this is awesome art, but it's by Scott Snyder, and I'm going to talk more about him when I talk about Substack, because he's one of my favorites, and I'm following him on Substack, and it's one of his comics. So I have that I'm going to read next time, for next time. And then this other one I can't recall if I talked about it previously as a coming up, but if not, this one's by IDW Publishing. It's called Earth Divers, Book 1, Kill Columbus. So it's got the ships on the ocean sailing the ocean blue, but this is by Stephen Graham Jones, makes his ongoing comics debut with Earth Divers. The year is 2112, and it's the apocalypse exactly as expected. Rivers receding, oceans rising, civilizations crumbling. Humanity has given up. I just want to make sure. Sorry. Make sure it's humanity has given up hope, except for a group of outcast indigenous survivors who have discovered a time travel portal in a cave in the middle of the desert and figured out where the world took a sharp turn for the worst. America. Convinced that the only way to save the world is to rewrite its past, they send one of their own on a bloody one-way mission back to 1492 to kill Christopher Columbus before he reaches the so-called New World. The taking down an icon is no easy task, and his actions could prove devastating for his friends in the future. So, I remember reading a preview, actually, and I just bought this, so I went to Granite City Comics recently, and I saw it just there, and I had read the preview, I think, when I was looking up stuff for the podcast, and it's like, you know, they're like, what would you do if you could go back and take out one person? And like, most people would take out Hitler. And they're like, well, you know.
No, nowadays, the U.S. is worse than that.
America was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And they decided, we're going to go out and take out Columbus so that America doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's what the comic is. This person's going back in time to kill Columbus. So, yeah.
Sounds dumb, but
Man,
because there'll be a lot of, I don't know.
And the art too is looks pretty cool in this one. So that's one, and so I have those. The previews I had just a couple, but they're Luke. Maybe a couple of these will be something for you. This is January 2023, but first is from Boom Studios. It's called Mosley, Mosley. It's a 5-issue limited series. Now, the reason I picked this one is because it's from another one I talked about previously, a comic called Farmhand. And it's the same person, Rob Guillory, actually wrote Chew, which is another one I talked about where it's that detective who can eat anything, including like, you know, body parts or human, whatever, and see like the past of that thing. So that's the creator of this, and Farmhand is really good too. And I love their art. I think I've actually showed you this, Luke, because I love the art for that style.
Yeah, I remember I'm still working on like the art look for the comic book, and you sent Farmhand as, you know, like,
yeah. So if you look at
like
Mosley, I mean, this one we're talking about,
reference.
It's got a lot of the same art, but this is so I'll read chronicling one man's attempt to take down the mighty idols of technology that have captivated the world in the near future. In the hyper-technological world of the later 21st century, Mosley is a bitter old janitor on a mission from a higher power to unleash holy hell upon the too-big-to-fail tech gods. Can one man bring down the corporate powers who have used their vast influence to oppress an all-too-complacent human race and hopefully win back the favor of his estranged family while he's at it? Mosley's taken up the holy hammer, and you better believe he's going to smash some shit until he sets mankind free. I mean, again, that just sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. And what was that one called?
Mosley, Mosley, and that's Boom Studios. That comes out in January. The next one is another one. So James Tynion is somebody that I followed. I talked a lot about Something is Killing the Children. I have Department of Truth I got, which is also supposed to be really good. He's just got a million comics, and he's somebody I follow on Substack, which I was going to mention again. I follow him, and he's got a comic called, this comes out in November, so coming up here. It's called like World Tree, but it's W, and then I think it's a 0, RLD altogether. TRE and then 33, so World Tree. And it's an ongoing series, and it's set to be the next major horror offering from James Tynion, like I said. Our last two. It's the last two for the previews, and then so this is again by James Tynion. In 1999, Gabriel, Amanda, Liam, Yoshi, and Darren discovered what they dubbed the Undernet, a secret architecture beneath the internet. They charted their exploration of the Undernet on a private message board called, again, and that's spelling, World Tree. Then they lost control and unleashed unimaginable horrors. World Tree is a horror epic that's been, so this is what he said, festering in the back of my brain for a better part of 5 years. And I mean, this guy has just some crazy stuff, man. So I highly recommend anything that comes out from him, to check it out. I mean, it's going to be a horror comic. So I don't know, again, Luke, if that's up your alley, but, next, this, last one, I guess, for previews is upcoming series Against All, a primal vision of humanity gone terribly wrong. And this is by Alex Packnadel, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's a 5-issue mini-series, and it's focused on a race of otherworldly conquerors in pursuit of an especially lethal predator, man. The series is set in the distant future. Earth is long gone, but a race of alien conquerors known as the Operators have preserved its most savage animals in an artificial jungle environment they barely understand. With no bodies of their own, the Operators move from world to world, harvesting bodies for the organic exosuits they use to wage their endless wars. Ignored and underestimated by his captors is the habitat's sole human specimen, Helpless. That's the name. However, when their efforts to find and harvest an apex predator intensify, he gives them far more than they bargained for. So, that just sounds, again, I mean,
sounds pretty gnarly.
Yeah, you see, again, you couldn't follow it up with milquetoast. You know what I mean?
All right, let's go back to the Ajani one. Just kidding.
Anyway, so, yeah, a couple Image and other Boom Studios, but there's just so much. And then,
yeah,
I guess I'll just, since we're going to be cutting this into another, as far as previews, I'll talk about those comics I mentioned earlier, but also I want to talk about Substack. But I'll need more time to talk about it, so I'll talk about some of the people I'm following on Substack and why, because there's some cool stuff, as I continue to try to get Luke to join a Substack community.
So yeah, let us know in the comments and on wherever if you know any good Substacks to follow.
So I'll just very quickly, I guess, since I have them mentioned, I'm following 3. 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, which, again, they're minor 3 comic book, people that I'm following. 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, The Empire of the Tiny Onion, which is that James Tynion, and Our Best Jacket, which is Scott Snyder, who I mentioned. The 3 Worlds, 3 Moons is a group of creators, and they're literally creating an entire world as fans watch their own world, and like the entire history behind it and everything. And if you're a subscriber, you get to read that and do it as they're doing it. And it's like their own comic universe. That's pretty crazy and cool. So that's also a preview for next time. But with that, we'll just call this episode 28 of I'm just going to say the Old School Noob podcast. And then it still says Hobby Shop Talk, but we're just going to call it the Old School Old School Noobs.
Old School Knobs.
The Old School Knobs podcast.
Such a knob.
The Old School Noobs podcast, episode 28. And I'm just going to say it, because why not? We're going to record again soon and have episode 29 where we'll talk about all this stuff. It's one of these times it's going to happen, and we'll be like, see, told you.
We'll say within 2 weeks for sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Hopefully within a week.
It's time to go eat and look at the football score, because I lost the score, and it was a good game between the Chiefs and the 49ers. And
it's 28 to 23. 28 to 23, I believe. But yeah, it looks like a good game.
There's no stress. I could care less. And because the Packers lost today, and it was funny. So I don't care what else happens. I just want to watch some high scoring football. So, all right, Until next time, go play some games.